on the comments which has been made by Donald Trump. Srinjoy, I want to understand from you. We were discussing how a pressure tactics has been deployed by US till now, and once again Donald Trump is claiming that India has offered zero tariff or no tariff. What do you make out of it?
Well, first of all, whenever the President of the United States, this one, says anything, it's always a version of the truth. Now, he has said that India buys a lot. True, in the past, in recent times, except for the S-400, there is very little that India has bought. Instead, India has bought the C-17 from America, the C-130, the M777 howitzer, lots of other things from the United States. And this, of course, includes the P-8I and the Strikers, for which the deals are also being done. So as a result, that bit is partly true. Secondly, he talks about India buying lots of oil from the Russians. Yes, that is true, but only for the last 3 years when the war actually started. Before the war started, 2% of India's petroleum needs were met by the Russians. So if the war ends tomorrow and the price of petroleum goes down, then again, things are back to normal. India will go to the market and go to the person who's offering the best rate. As far as this India saying that we are offering zero tariff, we have to find out and see what the Indian government has to say about it, because it's not very clear from President Trump what kind of tariff India has suggested and whether America has accepted it or not. He has left it sort of in the air, really, that it might be too late and all that. But what is too late? We don't know all that. So it will be important to find out what the Indian government has to say about it, and we will very shortly. But as far as his points about Russian oil and Russian military equipment is concerned, it's part of the truth, not all of it.
All right, Srinjoy. We also have with us Rajkamal Rao. Mr. Rao, welcome to ET Now. My first question to you is, now Donald Trump is claiming that India has offered zero tariffs. When such kind of negotiations happen, generally it is item to item. Even if on one or two items India would have offered such kind of a thing, do you think it is fair to say from Donald Trump's part that India has offered zero tariffs?
Hello, thank you for having me on. No, this is, I think this is Trump positioning, and it's primarily around, the winner-take-all approach that he has in out of the deal. Obviously, we have to wait and see for an official announcement to come from the Indian government as well about what tariffs indeed India has indeed agreed. We clearly know that India has made its positions very clear about, agricultural tariffs, or small and medium scale industry tariffs. So the devil is in the details. But I actually have a slightly different point of view here. Trump watches a lot of television, and all of the images that are coming out everywhere. I mean, not only in Indian media, but also foreign media like Deutsche Welle and AFP and all that. They're showing these images about Putin and Xi and Modi, the three of them together, Modi and Putin shaking hands, hugging. So the thing is, remember, the whole idea for the reciprocal, the 25% tariffs on Russian oil was intended to distance Modi from Putin, and for Prime Minister Modi to come over to the American side. But the exact opposite effect is happening. And so with Prime Minister Modi attending the SCO, things are changing very rapidly. So I think India's pressure tactics, are working. We know in the past that when China did the same thing, it worked. So maybe this is Donald Trump's way of saying, come to the table, let us negotiate. And in his usual way, he's saying, let's start by saying something like India has agreed to lower tariffs to zero.
Right, Mr. Rao. Also joining us on this broadcast is Mr. Jain Dasgupta. Thank you very much, Mr. Dasgupta, for joining us here on ET Now. Let me ask you: is Donald Trump rattled by the kind of optics that the whole world rather has seen at the SEO summit, where the bonhomie between Russia, India, and China, their leaders, has really come to light, and perhaps the fact that the U.S. administration is now rattled?
There are two things which need to be mentioned in this context. The first thing is that President Putin and Prime Minister Modi's very apparent bonhomie and the closeness of their relationship, that was there for the whole world to see. In fact, they also traveled in the same car. President Putin addressed Prime Minister Modi as my dear friend Modi. Prime Minister Modi, in turn, in his speech, mentioned that we have had a very, very long relationship built on trust, friendship, etc. So I think this is a slap on the face of President Trump, who was trying to wean away India from Russia. And of course, the first of his demands was that India should stop buying Russian oil. But not very far behind in the wings was his next demand, which would surely have come, which was that India should also stop buying Russian arms. Of course, there could have been other demands that India should walk out of BRICS, should not associate with Russia, China, etc., etc. But those are matters of conjecture. The second point I wanted to mention is that this is not something which President Trump has mentioned afresh.
Right, Mr. Dasgupta, point well taken here. We also have with us David K. Johnston. Mr. Johnston, we are discussing how Donald Trump has announced about India offering nil tariffs. Ideally, it should be the offerer, the one who has offered this should announce this. But knowing Donald Trump, this is no surprise. Having said that, in this scenario, do you think the kind of pictures which were there on the social media and everywhere today, which side wins? Do you think on a diplomatic basis, India has actually put the pressure?
What you're seeing in China right now is the reordering of world trade and commerce. The U.S., starting with Bill Clinton in 1993, has tried very hard to woo India, and Donald Trump has just blown that up because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's a terrible negotiator. I've negotiated with Donald many times and always gotten everything I wanted. It's all a fraud. He's an appallingly ignorant man who's a con artist. And what you're seeing in the photos that were sent, some of which were designed to denigrate Donald Trump, is the very early stages of a new order in which India, China, the 24 other countries that were involved in this meeting at one level or another, beginning to say, we don't need the U.S., we're going to change the way trade is done around the world. And in the process, India has drawn itself closer to Putin. One of the key things the U.S. has worried about all the way back to the Cold War days and the old Soviet. So I think this is a development that's very good for India, China, and other countries that cooperate with them, and not a good day for the United States. And by the way, one indication of the incompetence of the Trump administration, these illegal tariffs Trump has announced. He has no power under the U.S. Constitution to impose tariffs. Only Congress can do that. He's put tariffs on India that are roughly 50 times higher as a percent of value than Pakistan, a country with which the U.S. does almost no trade. India is America's 7th largest trading partner. And India, of course, has a long history of opposing terrorism, whereas Pakistan shielded Osama bin Laden. So this is just indicative that there's no policy here. There's a crazy man with appalling ignorance surrounded by a bunch of television show hosts playing at diplomacy.
David, thank you so much for that perspective. In fact, I want to thank all my guests, Mr. Rajkamal Shinjoy, Jayan Das Gupta, as well as Sumita. Thank you so much for joining at this hour. And now Donald Trump is making all attempts just to show that he has upper hand. But at the same time, the pictures speaks for themselves, and we need to wait and see what is the official version of Indian government. But with this, let's move on and talk about the beginning of the month, which often marks key financial activities